Hello, welcome to One in an Infinity. My name is Stephen D. Edwards, and welcome to my channel. I've been talking lately a lot about depression, and so I thought maybe we could take a break from that. And the last one was about addiction. That was pretty heavy. So next week we'll talk about get back into it. But this week I want to read a short story that's going to be published in August in a online magazine titled Faith on Every Corner. I'll put a link to it in the magazine in the description. And here we go. A silent prophet. The room fills with cries of joy, mixed with the cries of a baby, seconds old. Jessica's midwife turns to her, smiling and announcing, "You have a beautiful daughter." The new mama looks around the room at her husband standing at the side of the bed, their smiles hanging by their cheeks as hammocks. "She's beautiful," he exclaims, with a flood developing in his eyes. He turns to his mother to say, "You now have your first granddaughter." Looking back on April 1 of 2028, Jessica and Tim will look back on this occasion of Gina's birth as the tiny moment which had pivoted their lives from the mundane to the extraordinary. But if they conceive of it now, they will not understand even half of what they say. Jessica begins making plans and preparations for Gina's second birthday, wondering daily why her little one has yet to begin talking. Her friends' kids have all begun talking by 18 months of age. Even without the ability to speak, Gina has quickly shown her intellect, pointing to the things she wants and needs to eat and drink. Sometimes she even shows when she wants to play with the family schnauzer, Barky. 6 months later, Gina begins to reach for her dad more often than her mom, even turning towards Tim while Jessica stands right beside her. The young parents become confused and awestruck as she learns to walk, run, and use her hands, but she still can't talk. They become even more amused one day when Tim walks into her room to find it tidy, with every toy in a neat place, like a decoration. "Jessica, come here," he calls, standing just beside the door. When she sees the display, she asks, "Did you do this?" "No, Gina did." 3 months pass, still without Gina able to say mommy or daddy. Yet Gina's unreal tidiness persists. The surprise comes when Jessica finds Gina's treasured teddy bear at the foot of the stairs next to the kitchen. Jessica picks up the cute little stuffy and takes it to her room, putting it on her bed, ready for nighttime cuddling. When Tim gets home from work, he heads upstairs but trips on the fifth step and falls down, landing on his head with his head on the last step. As Jessica panics with anxiety because of her husband's fall, she thinks of Gina and her teddy bear. She thinks, could this child really have predicted this? With Gina looking up at her mom and pointing at her dad, Jessica remains doubtful and considers it a mere coincidence. So she doesn't tell her husband about it. Gina is just getting started. A month later, Gina puts a doll lying on the floor at the back deck's sliding glass door. Jessica picks up the doll and returns it to Gina's room. On her way back to the kitchen to start dinner, she notices through the window that snow begins to fall. Later in the afternoon, Jessica decides that she wants to use the barbecue on the deck to prepare dinner, despite the weather. So she opens the door to shovel a path through the snow. As she starts to clear, she slips and falls. She gets up, rubbing her bruised hip, thinking she should cook dinner on the stove instead. She can't believe that Gina put the doll at the door just before it started to snow. How could she know? Another month passes. Gina puts a little toy schnauzer dog at the front door on a ledge facing into the house. Neither Jessica nor Tim notice that she put it there. But later in the day, the dog wants to go outside, as he usually does in the afternoon. So Tim lets him out into the cold February air. A few hours later, Jessica says, "Where's Barky?" Tim answers with a pale face but no words. Instead, he runs to open the door, where he finds a shivering dog, frozen saliva icicles hanging from his facial hair. Jessica follows her husband to the door, trying to avoid laughing at the sight of the dog, but she becomes distracted when she sees Gina's canine figurine on the ledge. She points at it, saying, "Honey, look." "What's that?" he asks, taking the dog to its bed to warm up. I think Gina has been leaving us messages. She left her toy dog on the ledge, where she can barely even reach. "Are you serious?" he asks. "Now that I think of it, before you tripped on the stairs, she left her teddy bear with its head hanging from the very step your head ended up." "Well, that's interesting," he says. "But wait, it gets even better. There was a snowy afternoon a few weeks ago when I wanted to use the barbecue to cook dinner. Gina put a blonde-haired doll at the sliding door facing out." "Okay, what happened next?" "She put it on the floor right where the door opens. When I went out to shovel a path to the barbecue, I slipped and hurt my hip when I fell." "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie," he says. "Thank you, honey," she says, kissing him. "I came inside and decided to use the stove instead." The part you're going to find creepy is that Gina only has one doll with blonde hair like mine. It's a little strange, but now I see what's happening. "Maybe we should talk to Pastor Mike?" she asks. Tim looks at her for a moment and says, "I think it might scare him, you know. He's not into the prophetic aspects of the faith. But I don't believe anyone can do what our girl has been doing without God." Jessica says, "I just don't want to ruin her by taking advantage of her gift." "Don't you think there's just as much danger of that if we tell our pastor about her?" Gina is now 24 years old and still cannot speak. She graduated high school with honors and got a bachelor's degree in divinity by age 21 and is an associate pastor at a church in the city where she was born. At 14, she prophesied that Tim would get cancer in 2 years and survive it twice before he finally succumbed to it 6 years later. In that same year, she prophesied that Jessica would die of a heart attack in 30 years. So that hasn't happened yet, and Jessica lives with her, communicating via sign language, even though she can hear everything well enough. So I enjoyed actually writing this story, partly because what inspired it was actually a true life person who's very charismatic, but can't speak. She likes to talk, with her actions. And I sort of exaggerated her the character's prophetic abilities, because I thought perhaps the real person might be prophetic and not even know it. So it's quite interesting. In any case, if you also liked the story and like my content, please like and subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified when I release a new one. I'm going to release this tomorrow, which is Saturday, and I'm going to make Saturday at noon my new release time for each week going forward, unless something else pops up and I want to do something in between. So another thing, check out my book if you haven't already, The Branch and the Vine, on Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the description, as well as a link to the magazine in which I'll be published in August. And maybe in the comments, I'll post the story itself when it is published. And then we'll go from there. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.